10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, Professor Aaron Eastwood.
Hello.
I would like to ask you some questions.
Sure.
This is the interview.
Mhm.
What is your professional title?
So my professional title is I am a associate faculty member at Norco College.
What is the name of your career?
Well, my career would be well, I actually have two kind of careers. There's my teaching career, which would be like I said, associate faculty is my current job title. My career then would sort of be teaching in music and music technology, and also kind of associated with that, music production. And then also, in addition to that, on the side, I do some freelance work as a composer and sound designer, primarily for game audio.
How long you have been in this profession?
I started teaching in 2015, in the fall of 2015, so about 5 years, a little bit more. And then I've been doing the freelance work kind of on and off since 2010.
What made you choose this career?
As far as the teaching goes, it was kind of, I don't want to say it was an accident, but it was just kind of being in the right place at the right time. I was actually taking classes at RCC to help build my skill set, my professional skills. And basically I needed a job because I had actually left my previous job to come back to school. And so I was asking one of my colleagues, who I'm sure you know, Brady Kerr, if he knew of any on-campus student positions. And he actually made me aware then of a faculty position that he thought I would qualify for. So I applied and actually ended up getting the job a little bit later that year. And then with the freelance side of it, it was just, I started out mainly being interested in music and wanting to be a film composer. And then when I was in high school, I actually got into video editing, which kind of led me then from video into audio when I was in college. So I started getting that dual composition and audio production experience and decided I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to try to do some of that after I graduated. Opportunities to work on site with a company were few and far between. So I started picking up freelance projects when I could, and that experience actually led me to have the experience I needed to actually get into teaching as well. So that's sort of the simplified version of it, but that's the basics.
Were there any barriers along the way?
Any barriers along the way? Not so much for the teaching. That was just kind of a door that opened for me, and I went, hey, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to step through the door. I suppose that now that I am a teacher, that the only barriers would sort of be to advancement, and becoming a full-time instructor is the next stage for a part-timer. And I think with that, it's just simply the fact that there aren't that many full-time positions available. So there's a limited number of positions, and it's rare for them to open up. The last one to open up in our department was a few years ago, and Brady got that full-time position, and rightly so. But since then, we haven't had any more full-time positions open up in either music or music industry studies at Norco College. So it's kind of just a waiting game, for us part-timers to wait for those positions to open up so we can apply for them, and then hopefully we'll get them. In terms of the freelance projects, there's a couple of different things when you're when you're doing any work in this industry. And by this industry, I'm talking about mainly anything having to do with media, whether it's, music for games or film or audio production, music production, or even things outside of audio as well. You have to have the experience, you have to have the knowledge. Well, you have to have the knowledge, first of all. You have to have the foundation. And I got that through schooling. You also have to have the experience, and that's hard to get, because in order to get a job, you have to have experience, but in order to get experience, you have to get a job. So that's a barrier that I think a lot of people run into, just not having that background. And one of the ways to combat that or deal with that is to do things for free. Now, a lot of people say, oh, never work for free, it's not worth your time. I disagree with that. I think you can and should work for free. You just have to be smart about it. You have to find, if you're looking to do projects for free, you have to find projects that are going to help you in other ways than financially. So it has to be a great portfolio building experience for you. It has to be an opportunity to do something unique that you might not otherwise get a chance to do, or it has to be forming a relationship with a person or an organization that you want to be associated with. So you can get, by working for no money, you can actually get some other useful things out of that. And one of them is experience. And experience can be one of those barriers that you asked about. The third barrier, and this is the one that I have the most difficulty with, is getting to know people and networking and kind of being social. I'm not a very social person, but in this industry, again, talking about the media industry, it's really all about who you know. And not only getting people to know you in a professional level, what your work ethic is, what you're capable of, but also them knowing that you're a good person too, that you're a responsible person, that you're a team player, that you're somebody that they can work with. So those are the big three: knowledge, experience, and then knowing people. And if you are not as secure in any one of those three areas, any one of those three can be a barrier.
What was your major in college?
My major in college as an undergrad was music composition. And then later on, shortly after I started, I added a second major in radio, TV, and film. They didn't have specializations, but I focused mainly on audio production classes. So I was music composition, then radio, TV, film, where I focused mainly on audio production classes. That was undergrad. As a graduate student, I took, my major was music technology, and I was on the composition track.
Did you have a major within a major?
Major within a major, you said?
Yes.
The way I interpret that is sort of like being an area of emphasis, which as an undergrad, it was music composition. So composition would have been sort of my area of emphasis. And then with, as a graduate, it would have also been composition, because that was music technology with the composition track.
Do you have any hobbies outside your work?
Hobbies outside my work? That's a good question. In recent years, I have to admit that my work has been a little all-consuming. It's interesting though, because I sort of turn my hobbies into work. And people say that you're not supposed to do that. You shouldn't make your hobby your job, but that's kind of what I've done, and I've kind of been okay with it. I would kind of say that if teaching is my job, then my hobby would sort of be that, music production that I do on the side, and composition I do on the side that sometimes is freelance work. So I guess in a way that's my hobby. Outside of audio production, in the past, I haven't done a lot of these things in a while, but I used to be more of an avid reader. I used to be a little bit of a writer. You know what? I still play video games. I still do find time to play some games. I don't know if that can be considered a pure hobby, since one of my major, areas of, doing professional or semi-professional work is for games, for composition and sound for games. So I don't know if actually playing games can be considered a hobby for me anymore, but it is something I enjoy and do to relax.
Have you had any chance to work with anyone who became famous at all?
Anybody who became famous? That's a good question. I think the answer is probably no, but then again, there's a lot of people I've lost touch with, so I'm not sure what they're doing these days. It's possible, but I don't think so.
You reach any goals in your life?
Reached any goals in my life? That's a good question. I feel like I'm still working towards a lot of my goals, but I'm making progress. And sometimes that's the important thing, is that you're making progress towards your goal. And I mean, it's good to achieve your goals, but sometimes when you get to your goal, it's like, okay, what do I do now? I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't ever achieve your goals, but sometimes it's okay, and it's not a bad place to be in when you're just making progress. I will say that relatively recently, I started working on a volunteer project as a composer. It's a volunteer video game project, and it's going to be a fairly major project, probably the biggest project that I've done. So if that ends up, getting finished and getting released, it's not a paid gig, but it will be a goal, to be a composer on that game. And I mean, I've had games in the past that I've worked on that have been released just here and there. So I guess in that sense, I did fulfill a goal because I was a composer on those games in the past. I would say a lot of, maybe if I fulfilled some general goals, getting a more stable career, I'm working, towards that right now. It's a little hard to call yourself stable as a part-timer, but my experience at Norco College has been very positive, and they like me and keep asking me back. So that is sort of a relatively stable gig, and that was one of my goals. I recently moved to a house instead of living in an apartment. That was a goal, and that's tied in with my career too, because as you become more successful in your career, you start making more money, you can do things like that. So I don't know that I've necessarily achieved any like super major goals, but I've achieved some milestones along the way. So I'm making progress. And again, that's a really important thing, is to at least be moving forward. It's when you're stagnant and you're not even getting any closer to your goals, that's where the problem comes up. So as long as you're moving forward, you're okay.
Have your dreams changed from what they were before?
Have my dreams changed from what they were before? Yes, but not maybe significantly, or maybe they just sort of have evolved and taken on a slightly different form rather than being totally abandoned. When I started in college, I wanted to be a film composer, like just straight up writing music for movies. I don't really feel that way anymore, but I do want to do video game composition. So it's still composition, but the medium has shifted. I would say that teaching, to advance in teaching, I suppose that's kind of a dream, and it was one I didn't have before. There was a time when I was a kid, really young, that I wanted to be a teacher, but I had kind of not really been thinking along those lines until I started working at Norco College. So I think now I have dreams, if you will, kind of associated with that. And that's not bad. It's not bad to revise your dreams, or have dreams evolve, or even abandon a dream in favor of something else. Again, it's kind of along those lines of moving forward. And when you're in a situation where you recognize something maybe isn't working out, there's two paths you can take. You can stop doing that thing, you can abandon that thing and go do something else, or you can persevere and kind of work through it. And a lot of times what you want to do is you want to persevere and work through your problems, work through your difficulties. But sometimes you get to a point where you have to look at it and go, okay, I'm putting more energy into this than I should be, and I'm not getting a lot out of it anymore. I'm not getting fulfilled by it. I need to shift gears. There's a author, and I can't remember the author's name, and he talks about being in a dip versus being in a cul-de-sac. And if you're in a dip, that's something you just got to work through. You got to get through that dip, that lull, that difficulty. But if you're in a cul-de-sac, cul-de-sacs are closed off. They're just this kind of rounded off street, and you can't go anywhere. And when you realize, I'm in a cul-de-sac, you got to turn around and go a different direction. So that's the key. It's not never quitting. It's knowing when to quit or when to change direction.
What is your favorite music engineering software that you have been working on?
My favorite music engineering software, you said?
Yes.
Pro Tools. I'm definitely a Pro Tools person, and I don't know that I really have a defense for that, except that I've been using Pro Tools the longest, and it's the one I'm most familiar with, so I'm very comfortable with it. Pro Tools does have a lot of power. It has a lot of flexibility in terms of what it does, what it can be used for, and what third-party software it can be used with. It's the industry standard, so everybody uses it, everybody knows it, everybody is, all of the third-party software, like I said, is designed to work with it. Other softwares that may or may not be true. I also have used Logic Pro, which is also a very good software that a lot of people use. In some ways, Logic is more geared towards music production, and occasionally I will do music production in Logic and then bring it into Pro Tools to polish it up. But mainly I'm a Pro Tools user. I've also used Logic. Sometimes I use Ableton, as you know. But those are the big three, with Pro Tools being number one.
Please tell us more about the programs that you use for your course.
The software programs?
Yes.
Okay, so I mentioned Pro Tools, and that's my primary digital audio workstation. I also teach it at Norco College, as you know, 2 levels, both user level and operator level, and I give certification courses in that. I also teach Logic and Ableton Live as part of the music technology class. And yeah, so those we don't do certification in, though. We mainly just use them to teach specific concepts and practice with production work. So those are the 3 that I use in terms of teaching. Other software I've used outside of that, I talked about the third-party software that works with Pro Tools. These usually come in the form of plugins, which are like little software programs or audio processors running inside of Pro Tools. I've used the plugins made by Waves and Isotope, 2 big manufacturers. I've used some made by other manufacturers here and there. One piece of software that I use that is audio specific to game audio is called Fmod. I use Fmod for, it's a part of a class of software called audio middleware. And it sort of stands in between the work we do in a digital audio workstation like Pro Tools and then the work that programmers and game designers do in a game engine. And the middleware kind of goes in between. So we take some of the stuff that we make in Pro Tools or Logic, we bring it into Ableton, where we can set up all the interactivity that's required for a video game. And then we build files out of Fmod that the game designers and programmers can put into their games. So that's another piece of audio production software that I use. And I actually did do a workshop in game audio at Norco College as an extracurricular activity using Fmod. So I've taught a little bit of that as well.
What is your favorite music genre that you like to collaborate with an artist or a student on a music project track?
Favorite music genre that I like to collaborate on? Well, I would have to say it would be video game music. And I'm doing that right now with this volunteer project I'm working on, where I'm actually part of an audio team of like 7. I think we had like 14, which was too many, but I think we're down to like 7 now. And yeah, we're all working together to build the audio for this game. So I'd have to say game audio, game soundtracks.
And have you ever thought about working with NetherRealms to do a music project with them?
Working with who, I'm sorry?
NetherRealms.
NetherRealms. I don't know who they are.
Is the creators from Mortal Kombat 11.
Oh, okay. I have to say have never played a Mortal Kombat game, or if I did, I just like played it once. But no, I'm not that familiar with them, so I guess no, I haven't ever considered working with them.
If you have a piece of advice to all the students that are going to be coming into college, what would you say to them to take as an appropriate, appropriate sign to join your class or any class of music?
So what advice would I give to students coming into college?
Yes.
Okay. That's a really good question. And I actually have been asked that before, and I had a good one, and now I can't remember it. Gosh, there's a couple of really good pieces of advice. It's hard to pick just one, but I think one of them that I think is a pretty good one would be, don't be afraid to try new things in terms of what you're studying and what types of things you might be interested in. So you come into college and maybe you want to go into music production. Well, that's great, pursue that, but don't be afraid to branch out and try other things. And don't be afraid to pay attention in your other classes, even the ones that you think probably aren't going to help you, because I know, having been a student for a really long time, that there's a real temptation, when you're taking like some GE class, to just kind of tune it out. I've been there. But you never know what you're going to end up doing. Case in point, I am now teaching at another college research courses. These are like hardcore, full-on research-based classes at the graduate level. I never ever thought I'd be doing anything like that. Never thought I'd be doing any kind of research, but because when I did take those research classes, in my graduate studies, I paid attention, I knew what to do, and I was actually asked to come back at the same school where I got my degree and teach there, because of partially because of the skills I demonstrated as a student. So you never know what you're going to end up doing, and what knowledge you gain is going to help you, down the road. And you never know what you're going to find that you enjoy, what you find that's interesting. And that's one of the reasons I say don't be afraid to sample things, don't be afraid to experiment. So I'm sure there are other pieces of advice that I could give, and I'll probably think of them later today. But that's one that came to me off the top of my head.
My last question is this: if you have a student that wanted to transfer to a university, which university would you give them advice on, and what studies would that person needs to do to get into that university?
That's a really good question. A lot depends on what they want to study. If you want to go into like music production, for example, I'm not sure I have a really good one. I don't think I found a really good university that I could point to and go, that's the one for music production. I know there are some out there like Berkeley, for example. They have got a really strong music production program. A lot of it's online, but I don't have any personal experience with them. If it was somebody who was wanted to do the very traditional music composition route, for example, my alma mater, Cal State Fullerton, they have a very strong music program, but it's very conservative. I should say it's very traditional, very music conservatory type idea. Somebody who wanted to maybe do game audio, I might recommend something different. So it really depends on where the student wants to go. And I would recommend, and what I would say is general advice, do your research on different schools, find out what courses they offer, Make sure they're offering courses that you want to take. Look at the programs, because you may have a music production program at one college. It probably looks totally different than the music production program at another college. And a lot of times the courses that one college offers for a particular subject, like music production, they won't be in line with the type of production that you want to do, but another college might. So same subject, but they'll have different course offerings. The core offerings will be the same, but I'm talking about the peripheral classes. So look at the programs, make sure the courses at that college are the ones you want to take. Also, see who's teaching the courses. Is there anybody on staff, members of the faculty who have experience in the industry, especially if you're talking about media production, and who are maybe active industry professionals, who know people in the industry, who are even recognizable names in the industry. That happens sometimes. And if so, go there, study with them, try to make a connection.
Yeah, and my last question would be, for the NAND show, have you ever thought about taking any students out there to get the experience of that?
I've thought about it. I haven't really had the opportunity to do that or really look into it, though.
Okay. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate everything.